Ah, the tangled webs we weave.
What's going on, y'all? It's David David and I'm back with another Borderlands 3 video. This time it's going to be on a specific hero build. So today's video is going to be on a Amara build of mine that I've totally been enjoying. I got some of the build ideas from a video quite a while back from, I think, Jolt's dude, 139, on a Moe's TD or Chuck build. But the rest of the build came up from my own mind. I call this build the ZEUS Amara because you throw lightning everywhere and deal massive shock damage. So I'll let the gameplay on my most recent Slaughter Shaft run with neutral modifiers play in the background while I get started on talking about it. Alright, so the first thing we're actually going to go over is the gear. I'll talk about it, like what I use, what's absolutely necessary for the build, and also what you can like modify or substitute out. The gun that I use as my primary source of damage is actually a TDO or Everblast with a shock element. And this gun's so good because when you reload it, it's thrown and then it blows up on impact, dealing shock damage. And then after that blows up, it spawns 4 little MIRVs that home in on enemies. The damage of the TD chuck as well as the MIRV projectiles all scale off of your grenade damage and your splash damage as well as the shock damage, I believe. This gun, well, not this one exactly, but any TD or shotgun that spawns MIRVs and has the homing module on it is a necessity for this build and what you want to be looking for. But for this build exactly, you primarily want to be looking for the shock damage one. Okay, so on to the second most important piece of this build, and that's the shield mod that you want to use, which is the Transformer shield mod. The Transformer is just so great for this because it converts 100% of shock damage that you take into shields. And since our primary source of damage is shock, it's just absolutely perfect for what we're going to be doing. It also has a chance to absorb bullets and add them to our ammo count, but that part isn't as important for this build. It's kind of nice, but we mainly just want it for the absorbing the shock damage part. So just with these two pieces of the build already combined, you can TD your chuck into the ground, into the wall, or even into an enemy that's close enough for you to get hit by the blast, and you'll instantly get your shields refilled. This shield is 100% needed for the ZEUS Amara build to keep your survivability up and to keep you from accidentally killing yourself when things get hairy. So now on to the next part of this build, and it's actually another 2-piece combo of the Face Puncher shotgun and the Cut Purse Prefix artifact. Cut Purse artifacts have the ability that give ammo back on melee attacks. I believe it's like 20 ammo, or I could just be making that number up, I actually don't know for sure. Also, this artifact that I have gives me extra grenade damage, so that's useful. The synergy here is awesome between these two because each of the Face Puncher pellets are counted as a melee attack, so with the redundant prefix Face Puncher, you basically deal like 14 melee attacks and then get all of your ammo back for your shotguns. You can also use the Deep Dive prefix for the Face Puncher, but I feel like the redundant one is just the best case for this build. These two are staples of the build and needed for longer fights to keep up the TD or chucks. Okay, so now the fourth part of the build that I use is not nearly as important as the other pieces that I've mentioned already, but it's super nice to have, and that's the shock element hex grenade. Basically, the only reason that I use this is that it's just easy damage for if I'm low on ammo or something, or the hectoplasms for this Halloween event going on right now. They also just look so freaking cool, and they go really well with this ZEUS theme that I'm going for. You can also just throw these at the ground or the wall or a close enemy to deal some shock damage to yourself and restore some shields. This grenade isn't exactly necessary, but it's a nice addition, but any grenade really with the shock damage can just fill this role. Okay, so now before I move on to the class mod, I'm actually going to go over the skill trees that I use and try my best to explain why I chose them. First, we'll go down the brawl tree and then put 5 points into root to rise to give us plenty of health to work with. And now on the next line, we'll go down and put 5 points into arms deal to give us increased splash damage for our TD or chucks, as well as making it so we take reduced splash damage from the enemies. This is especially useful in places like the Slaughter Shaft where people are shooting like rockets at you all the time, or the tanks are throwing grenades at you. Okay, so now we'll go over to the Mystical Assault skill tree and start off with 3 points into fast hands for mainly the reload speed for our TD or chucks, but also for the weapon swap speed to change the Face Puncher for the ammo regen quicker too. And then we just need 2 more points to go down to the next line, so you can split them kind of basically however you like, but I just put 1 into each for the small bonuses that you get. On the next line, we'll throw 5 points into Alacrity, so we get increased reload speed when we activate our action skill, which just equates to basically more TD chucks and more damage. And then we can also just dump 2 points into Restless for a decreased cooldown on our action skill. Alright, so now lastly, we'll move on to the Fist of the Elements skill tree for the rest of our 26 points. First, we're going to fill up the Anima skill, which makes our status effects deal more damage for longer periods of time. And now, on the next line, we'll throw 5 points into Tempest. Tempest is probably one of the best skills for this build because it buffs our elemental damage and even further buffs the shock damage, which is our primary source of damage here. Okay, from here, we can put 1 point into Dread on the third line. This skill is really just filler for our teammates. If they kill a grasped enemy, we don't really benefit ourselves from getting the ammo reloaded. And now to get to the next line, we'll go back and throw 4 points into Wildfire so our status effects can spread to other enemies. Now we can go down to the fourth line and we'll put 1 point into Deep Well, which increases our magazine size for elemental weapons. For this build, this means that our TD chucks deal more damage since the magazine size is larger. We can also go over and fill up the Catharsis skill. That makes it so enemies blow up, dealing AoE shock damage every 8 seconds when we kill someone. We need 1 more point to get down to the 5th row, so we can either go back and put 1 last point into Wildfire to max that out, or just put 1 point into Illuminated Fists. I just put it into Illuminated Fists so that my face puncher shots can do a bit more damage. Now we can jump down to the 5th row. I like to fill up the sustainment here, like max it out 5 out of 5, because dealing shock damage heals you, and with this build you're dealing plenty of it. With this and the Transformer Shield mod, you can actually refill your HP and your shield by TD or chucking it yourself pretty easily. Conflux also works with this build, but I don't use it because, well, I don't want to ignite or melt myself, and I tried it in the beginning when I was testing this build, and I found that I ignited myself way too often. And now lastly, we'll drop 1 more point into Forceful Expression for increased elemental damage, and since we'll be using the Ties That Bind action skill and leaving it as shock damage. For the action skill effect, I like to use Allure to pull in enemies, but you can also use Revelation or Soul Sap depending on your playstyle. Alright, so now that we're done covering the skill tree, I'll go back and reveal the last piece of my build, which is the class mod. I'm actually using the Nimbus class mod that generates a shock damage cloud around my target once I phase grasp them, meaning that after I phase grasp, I can walk up to my target and stand inside of the AoE to regen my shields constantly. I like to do this when I have to swap to my face puncher for more ammo just to give me some like extra cover, extra shields. It also gives me a nice extra 2 points into Tempest for more shock damage. But I wish I didn't have the 2 points in Conflux because sometimes I set myself on fire and down myself. This particular one also comes with a bonus to splash damage and TD or reload speed for the chucks. So yeah, that's about gonna wrap it up for my ZEUS Amara build. I love using this build here in the Slaughter Shaft because there aren't very many shock resistant enemies. Feel free to go and try experiment with this build on your own. If you're on PS4 and are in need of a piece of this build, drop a comment below. I might be able to help you out, or even if you're on like Xbox or PC or something, maybe someone else can help you out there as well. Make sure to take the time to like the video and leave me a subscribe to watch my future content. All of the likes and the subscriptions seriously like help my channel a ton. I appreciate the heck out of you guys for it. I'm trying to grow my channel, so every like and every subscription helps. And yeah, that's actually going to do it for me. I'll let the rest of my run play out at an increased speed till it gets near the end in case you wanted to watch it. Yeah, that's going to be it. I'll catch you guys all on the next video. See ya!
Opposites attracted, magnetic and irreplaceable. Picture perfect, photogenic, doubts diminish. Yes, I'm finished acting like nobody has my back. Girl, you told me that I'ma keep you steady on your path, so I'm knowing.